Hello, welcome to the replay. My name's Jason Butler and thanks for joining me on this Instagram live. I'm live every Tuesday night at 7:30. Now, tonight I want to talk about quite a thorny subject, and that is money and relationships. Now, money and relationships is an interesting one because it is actually a really big cause of divorce, of relationship breakdown, and of basically tension and conflict in relationships. Hello, Mr. Jazz Rose. Thanks for joining. Nice to see you there. So money and relationships is a really thorny system, and it's a really thorny issue, and that's why I thought I would do it, because I'll tell you the story in a minute about one of my readers who contacted me with a problem. So I thought that I would write a blog about it, and I thought tonight it'd be a great subject to do a live on it. And so if you've got questions, if you want to ask me any question about money and relationships, please put them in the comment box below, or you can put them in the question box, whatever suits you, and I'll try and get and answer those. And if I don't get to your question, come next week, and even if it's not that subject, you can put it to me again. And you can always email me via my website at jason-butler.com and send me your question if you'd rather ask it to me one-to-one. I can't give personal financial advice, but I can certainly give you insights and share with you what I know. So, interesting. Number one cause of divorce is money. And it's not just the money, it's what money represents. It represents probably the biggest touch point, the biggest excuse, the biggest catalyst for conflict and disagreement in relationships. And as someone who's been married 26 years in January, I know, I don't look old enough, I know, I agree, then I know a little bit about this, and my wife and I have had, ups and downs with our communication and money, etc. Oh, hello there, it's Bouncy Feet Castle. Hi, good to see you. Afro Girl Adventures. God, we got some returnees here. We got some survivors, which is what I always love to see, people coming back, which is great. This subject we're going to be talking about is this whole issue of money and relationships. So, interestingly, I don't know if anyone saw. Give me a thumbs up if you saw the article last week on the BBC talking about some research from the Money and Pension Service, where they found that 4 in 10 people from their survey actually said that they kept money secrets from their partner. Can you believe that? That's 40% of the people in the survey. Now, I don't know how representative it was, but I wonder, I think everyone at some stage has probably kept some kind of secret, even if it's you've spent bought a pair of shoes, perhaps you said you weren't going to buy it, or you spent a little bit more on a night out, or you got rid of a counterfoil for a meal with mates that probably you got a bit carried away of. I think everyone's done something with money that they'd rather not share with their partner. That's not the same as being really deceitful, and it's not the same as being not on the same page. Hi, Tybor, good to see you there. So it's not the same as I say, being deceitful. I think there's degrees of harmony when it comes to relationships and money. But I think if we can actually get stuff out in the open, and if we can have an honest conversation, that's Mr. Jazzy Rose, that's an incredible, it is, yeah. So if we can get stuff out in the open, if we can have a line of communication, which means that neither party is going to be defensive, and neither party is going to start sort of attacking the other, then I think we've got a recipe for hopefully making money a force for good in your life and not a source of frustration or worry. That's the key. So let's just share with you then the catalyst for this, the blog, this week's blog, and for this live. And I got an email. Let's call her Chloe. And Chloe has been listening to my podcast, Real Money Stories. Anyone listen to Real Money Stories? Anyone out there? Just give us a thumbs up if you've ever listened to an edition of Real Money Stories, because I interview real people about their money journey. And what people do is they say, well, they tell me their story, how it was when they were growing up, and their highs and lows. And some people are very, very open, and some people are a bit more guarded. Some people have quite sort of mundane experiences with money, and others have very topsy-turvy ones, and I certainly did. My new book, The Money Miracle, I'm going to be going into a lot more detail about my real lows with money, because that will give hopefully people inspiration to, hopefully see there's always light at the end of the tunnel, because I'm certainly a lot less of a train wreck today than I was 30 years ago, so there's hope for anyone. So yeah, Chloe emailed me and says, look, she is married, been married to her husband for 10 years, 10, 11 years. They've got a 10-year-old child. They live abroad, and she doesn't earn a huge amount and he doesn't earn a great deal either, but they get by enough, Anyway, she is getting increasingly frustrated with his behaviours around money and what he's doing with money and the way she feels treating her and her son. She thinks that he's valuing other people outside of the family more than he values his own family. So, reading between the lines, and I've reproduced some of it in the blog, so go to the website jason-butler.com to read it. I've sort of sanitised it a little bit because she gave a lot of detail. And essentially what she was saying was he doesn't have a great deal of money, right? They've got separate accounts for everything except for the bills. They've got one account they put all the bills into. And she knows that he's got about £5,000 or £6,000 on credit cards or overdrafts, but he's still giving people money. People will come to him because they live in a poor country, and people will come to them and say, oh, I need a couple of $100 because I can't send my children to school this month. So he will lend these people the money because he feels sorry for them. And this is driving her nuts. So what she's doing is she's getting really annoyed that they don't have a lot of money. She knows he's living paycheck to paycheck. He's in debt, right? And he's not really contributing anything extra other than the money for the bills. And they're not living a life of Riley. And he's giving strangers money he doesn't have. And she said this is driving him nuts. Now, there's a lot of unanswered questions with this, because I don't know how much she's spoken to him, how much he knows it's upsetting her, whether actually what she is doing is nagging him to death about this. So if you read the blog, you'll see that what I've said is, look, he's doing this, what you think is irrational behaviour of spending money he hasn't got on people who are not in the family, because it makes him feel good, right? So any money behaviour, anything we do with money, we do because it makes us feel good in the moment, even if it's going to sabotage our long-term well-being, right? So if you've got a partner or someone in your family or a relative or a friend you're in any way connected with, and they're doing something you think, well, I don't understand, that's destructive, that's not good for them, but it makes them feel good in the moment, they'll do it. So in this case, he gets a feeling of really feeling valued, useful, and it makes him feel good by helping these people out, and that's his deep call. But there will also be some deep-seated reason why he's doing that. Now, his particular job is a caring profession, okay? So that gives you an idea that he's clearly very emotive, and he's connected with his people around him, and he likes people and he likes to help. So sometimes people with that kind of personality type, or that kind of upbringing, or that experience and those feelings, they can be their own worst enemy because they want to help everyone, right? And they'd rather be walking around in holes in their shoes if that means they can help people, because that's what makes them tick. So in his situation, it could be being compounded by the fact that if she keeps having a go at him, if all she sees is fault in what he's doing, and it's focused around the money, then he's going to feel more and more useless and hopeless every time she communicates with him, right? Give me a thumbs up if you've ever experienced with a partner, where they've done something with money that has made you feel annoyed. So just give me a thumbs up if that's actually happened for you, because I'd like to know that, even if it was years ago with an ex-partner or anything, they've just won one thing with money that sort of just really kind of potentially got you annoyed, whether you showed it or not. So just give me a thumbs up if you've done that. But yeah, so what's happening with her is she may actually, the only interaction she may be having with him is all about negativity. You know what it's like when someone, all they do is pick you up on what you're rubbish at or what you're not doing, right? Okay. So if you're going to stay married for a long time, you have to learn to let some things go over your head, right? So I'm a master at this. So with my wife, she will say things to me, but obviously some things really matter and other things is noise. Now it may be important to her, but it's not important to me. So I can't listen to everything she's saying because it would just upset me. Now when it comes to money, let me share with you a story, and I'll come back to Chloe in a minute and how I helped her with that. But I remember we were just laughing about this because I was just taking an extractor fan off in our kitchen, and when we bought our kitchen, it was £30,000, and it was 11 years ago when the global credit crunch was on, and I originally sat down and said, what would you like that would make you happy, a thing or something that you could spend money on? I said, what I want is a piano. So my piano was 10 grand. So I said, that's what I want, and I still, we've got the piano and we love it. And she said, well, I want a kitchen. So okay, so we went to the kitchen showroom. We hadn't really discussed the actual budget. We knew we were going to get a kitchen and we wanted something nice. And he put the price down, and this has never happened before or since. And he said, right, okay, it's 30,000 or it's 32,000. We'll let you have it for 30 today because we're desperate for the work. She said, yes, that's fine. We'll go ahead. Next minute, I know I'm paying 5 grand deposit. Now that was a very unusual situation. It wasn't that we didn't have the money, or it wasn't that we couldn't do it, but it was an unusual one. But ever since then, what we've had in our relationship is we've always sort of said, okay, well, we both don't really want much in our lives. We're not very flash people. But when it comes to being straight with each other about what we do or don't want, we will do stuff, right? Now, my wife knows that I like to have a fair bit of cash because that keeps me feeling comfortable, right? Really helps me feel comfortable having a certain amount of cash. So I like to have a year's worth of living costs in cash, because it means I can ride out anything. If I don't want to work for a year, if I don't want to tap my investments, if rent doesn't come in, if not, if the world's going to hell in a handcart. So as far as I'm concerned, we kind of know where we're going. We know the rules of the road. So as far as I'm concerned, that for me keeps me comfortable. Everything else, I make decisions with my wife. I share stuff with her. I tell her what I think we should be doing. And unless it's day-to-day stuff, she would rather me deal with the day-to-day. And then I give her a summary sheet of what we've got, what we're worth, where the money is, and how to get hands on everything. So our relationship has kind of evolved in a way where we both respect each other's boundaries. She knows where everything is, and I've put together a support team of people so that if anything happened to me, I died or got ill, she would have at least a list of people to speak to who could help her with different bits, and she knows where everything is, and she's quite comfortable to do that. And equally, she's really good at sort of running the household, and she's very good at doing making sure we've got everything we need. So we've evolved a situation which works for us. I consult with her on the big picture stuff. And she knows the kind of rules of the road in terms of how we're living. But we don't live hand to mouth, and we respect each other's boundaries. So let's just go back to Chloe. So Chloe, I said to Chloe, what you need to do, I think, is first of all, I don't know how much conversations you've had with your partner. What you need to do is you need to have a dialogue with him. You need to speak to your partner, but speak to him or your husband speak about money, but without speaking about money. So I would suggest to her, like I do on the Real Money Stories podcast, I'd said to her, well, look, why don't you just ask him to share with you his early money experiences, what it was like growing up, earning, spending, all that. And I suspect you'll see a lot of pointers there to things in his life that will give you an idea of where he's at. So he needs validation. He needs to feel worthy. Some people learn what we call money scripts from their upbringing. That money is the root of all evil, right? Money is the root of all evil. It's a terrible thing. By the way, if you are a new person, if you are a new watcher today, please give me a little one of those emojis, just so I know you're new, because I can't always keep a track of how many people are going on there. So just do that. So I said, you need to have a conversation with him which doesn't make him feel defensive, that doesn't make him feel like you're badgering him and have a go. So what you want to try and do is help him understand. Now, clearly, he needs to grow up, right? This is me being the tough love. He's got to grow up and become a man, right? Hi, Wallace, yeah. So he's got to grow up and become a man, right? And start realising that the family comes first, right? You can't help anyone else unless, the Good Samaritan, basically has to make sure he's secure first, and then he has to help everyone. So you live like no one else so that you can give like no one else. And that's the key. When you've got a head, you can give money. So, as I was talking to my wife the other day, Children in Need was on. We watched the thing there. That was all great. And I said, okay. She said, make sure you give the money like we always do. And I said, I think we should up it. We should give him 500 quid this year. So we went and gave 500 quid. Did it on the online account. We got a CAF account. Did that. Everyone happy. Sent my wife an email confirmation. She said, very good. So we're sharing the values. So with Chloe, she needs to have a conversation with her husband where she can start to understand where this is coming from, but also then she needs to find the right situation to talk about money, where what she can do is say, well, look, I want to just share with you what gets me stressed and what makes me happy and content. Okay? So, if she says to him, it gets me stressed knowing that you haven't got any money, knowing that you're living hand to mouth, that you're in debt and you're giving money to people, but it's not really his financial position that's worrying her, it's what that signifies, isn't it? It's never about the money, it's always about the actions and the values that go behind it. And it might be that actually Chloe and her husband have got actually a more deep-seated problem than the money. The money may be just the kind of the mask over the top. It could be they've got deep-seated emotional problems. And I always recommend people, if they're arguing about money, okay, other than obviously learning the money milestones that I teach, and there's lots of material out there, but you can start my website and share some of that stuff with someone, your partner if you want. But I think the key thing is some people actually need to learn to communicate better. So it may be that what they need is not actually help with their money, but help with their marriage. And it might be that they need to talk to someone like Relate or and some other kind of counselling service. But start with having a conversation. And here's the other thing is, for all of those of you who've either had or have a partner that kind of drives you nuts when it comes to money, either they're not interested or they go off beam, they don't keep to the budget that you've agreed, lots of reasons why that happens. You've got to accept that there are things that you can control and things that you can't control. So give me a thumbs up if you now realise the difference between things you can control and you can't control when it comes to your partner and your money. So give me a thumbs up if you've now realised that and it no longer is a source of frustration or worry. Because if you are fretting about stuff you cannot control, you're just going to be unhappy. So you can't control, your partner wanting to go out and spend money. You can't control your partner not wanting to sit down and talk about the budget. You can do these things, so you have to start with you first. So you've got to start with you. You've got to be the good example, right, that you want to be. As what was it? Is it Gandhi, I think, that said, be the change that you want to be within. So in other words, you start with you. And it's always the case, if you're the one that's the most upset about the relationship and the money side of things, you start being an exemplar. You really start taking interest in the budget. You start taking interest in how to improve your human capital, your earning ability. So I would say, rather than worrying about them, think, what is it you can do to be better? And then there's a second thing, is also listening. How many of us listen in order to just be able to speak again? I'm guilty of this as just as anyone else, but if we can listen to understand, and listen to what is not actually being said, listen to the undercurrent below what is behind this, because money is always about, for some people, it's about status. It's about validating themselves. It's about their role as a breadwinner, or where they are in their career, or whether they are worthy. All right. So money can really affect people's self-esteem. And in the coronavirus pandemic sort of world that we live in, there will be a disproportionate number of people now, because they're more vulnerable, because the work situation's a bit more, fluid, and some people have lost work and some people are furloughed. It will be bringing what was already a fragile situation, it might make it worse. So I want you to also think about what makes you happy. So when we talk about money and we think about money, we got to start thinking about what makes us happy. And for some people, spending habits, so you might have one person who wants to do the saving and the other person who loves, spending. You've got to find a happy ground somewhere. So the person who likes to spend, what they really are saying is that they want to feel free, that they want to have fun, that they want to express themselves. Okay, they've got to do that in a way that doesn't take the family or the unit or the relationship off the cliff. But equally, if you are the saver, don't be a tightwad, because the person who wants to have the fun and wants to have a bit of variety and a bit of freedom is going to feel like you get the hands around their neck, right? So you've got to find a way, and that's why the smart spending plan, the smart spending system within the money milestones, makes allowance for fun. Give me a thumbs up if you have a dedicated allowance in your budget for fun for you and your partner, so that you and your partner both are allowed to spend a certain amount on anything you want, and you do not have to that you don't have to account to them. If you want to buy a pair of shoes, if you want to go out for well, you can't go out at the moment, but when you can, if you want to go out for a couple of beers and you know, just a fun kind of blow it fund, even if it's 50 quid a month, right? Give me a thumbs up if you got that. Yeah, that's right. Give and take, absolutely. Give and take is everything. Just not too much taking. And here's the other thing: is it's okay as a couple to be different, right? It's okay to be very different. My wife's an introvert, I'm an extrovert, right? She will plan something to the nth degree, and I will, you know, I do a lot of planning, but I can pretty much work off my feet, right? What's that? No, not before we buy a second property. Yeah, got it. Okay. So, Peter, yeah, that's a good one. I like it. Yeah. So that brings me on nicely to that thing. So you're saying that there's no give or take at all until you bought your second property. Well, here's the thing: as long as you both agree what the priority is. So I always say, if you've got no emergency fund and you've got non-mortgage debt, you've got to be literally totally utterly focused on getting through that and building your emergency fund, and then you can ease up and have fun, okay? But you've both got to want it. And if you don't both have the same priorities, if you're not on the same page, it's a bit like driving on an automatic with your foot on the accelerator and the brake. And what you're going to do is you're going to burn out and you're just going to have conflict. So I think the key thing is you absolutely say, if you agree on your priorities, but more important, if you agree on your values. So my wife and I have very similar values and we have pretty much the same priorities, but we are very different people, and it's okay to be different. Well, you know, being different is probably what you're attracted to each other. So interesting. Let me just check here. I've got someone here trying to ask me a question here. Let's have a look. Oh no, that's okay. Someone's trying to get in on my live there. Good. Okay, so what I want to now do is I just want to talk about gifts, right? So giving gifts. Now, there's a funny story I tell everyone that when we didn't have much money, my wife said, "Oh, I don't really want much for Christmas," so I didn't get her much for Christmas. I got her some horrible mohair jumper. I think it was awful, and we still tell the story now. I gave it to her, and she went berserk. I mean, not berserk, she went smouldering and quiet. And then I realised that actually when she said, "I don't want anything," what she meant was she didn't want me to spend too much money, but she didn't want me just to spend £12 at the market. Okay, that's what she was really saying. So I learned that actually what someone's saying isn't always what they mean. Has that ever happened to anyone here? Tell me in the comments box if that's ever happened to you, if you've ever misunderstood something your partner said to you when it comes to a value decision about spending or earning or investing, And then let's just now talk on lending money to relatives and friends, right? It's a really, really bad thing to do. Lending money to family and friends is probably the worst thing you could probably ever do for them. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it's fraught with difficulty. I lent some money to a relative of mine some years ago to help them buy a car. And I kept a note of it, and it was several £1,000s, so we're not talking hundreds. And I knew that they're not bad people at all. Not bad people at all. And I knew that they had forgotten about it, but I hadn't. And I'd raised it a couple of times in the end, I just had to, it was a long story, but I knew they were coming into some money. And I made the point, I said, "Can I have my money back for the car that you bought 7-8 years ago, please?" And I didn't have any interest. It was not a problem, but it was just potentially was a problem because it was something I was festering about. Several £1,000s of hard-earned money for me was important, and so if I'd left that, it would have made me felt, you know, even worse. Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point, Peter. If you do lend money, and this often happens in families, you know, I'm lending them the money. What you're saying is you're gifting them the money, and you're hoping it's going to come back. So here's my little thing: if you're going to lend anyone money in your friends or relatives, is if you lend money, make sure you have a written note of it that you both sign. It sounds formal, but there's something magical about having a piece of paper. It can be no interest, it can say it's open-ended, it's not repayable on demand, whatever it is, but you get it down in paper because it stops any disagreements in the future, and it makes the person think, hang on, you wouldn't go to the bank, would you? You wouldn't go to the bank and just borrow some money and say, "Don't worry about any paperwork, I'll sort it out in a few years' time." You wouldn't, whether it's interest-free or not. And the second thing is that a loan can become a gift, but you shouldn't expect that, and you shouldn't go into it like that. And then the second thing is if you're lending a substantial amount of money to someone, say that you're going to try and help someone buy a property, or you're going to borrow money from family to buy a property, you should expect to have a second charge on that property for your money you've loaned. If it's 10, 15,000, more than just a few hundred. And if you have a charge on someone's property, it just stops there's any issue if they have a relationship breakdown or anything like that, or if it's used and under borrowing and your boyfriend or girlfriend splits up from you and you want to prove that your mum and dad or your granny or your granddad or your uncle has lent you the money, having a formal loan agreement and a second charge protects the family. Yeah. So let's now also talk about gifts, right? So how many of you, give us a thumbs up if you ever ask your partner or agree with your partner how much you'll spend on a gift. Or do you just agree not to? Give us a thumbs up if you have a conversation with them, your partner or significant relationships. If you actually agree with them, how much you're going to spend and if you're going to bother buying them a present or what they want. Just give me a thumbs up if you do that. And feel free to put any questions you've got here in the comments box. Very happy to answer any question. There's no silly questions at all, whether it's about money and relationships or something else. Just get it on there so that we can try and answer some questions before the end of today. And so here's another thing, going back to relationships, if we're trying to have harmony, is not both partners want to get deep in the weeds to try and always deal with the money. What question did I ask? I just want to know if you ever have a conversation, Mabel's Gold. I want to know if you ever have a conversation with your partner or very close relatives about whether you should buy each other a present, and if so, how much you want to spend or what they want. Just do you have that level of communication, or is it always got to be a kind of... Because the problem is always about gifts is that we think, and this happens as we go into Christmas, we think that how much we spend says how much we love, and that is not the case at all. It's absolutely not the case. And your children, if you've got children or nephews or nieces or any younger kids, they don't care how much you spend. They might think they want this or that thing, but what they really want is your time, and they want you to be involved with them and play games and stuff. You don't need to do anything. Now, I've got an angle for you. On our website, I don't know if anyone's seen it. Yeah, that's good. You set limits on what you want to buy. That's really good. Yeah, second-hand's a good one. Actually, second-hand's good, Sometimes you get better stuff second-hand. We're just finishing this building project, which you can see on my YouTube channel, and we've spent £200,000 on it. No loans or anything, just our own money. But we have a budget, and I've said to my wife, we can't afford to buy new sofas. We are going to have to buy second-hand sofas and put some throws over them until we built some more money up. It's not about not having the money. I'm not going to touch portfolio money to fund that. I'm going to go and earn some money, do some gigs and do some writing, and we'll get the money to get some nicer sofas when we can afford it, right? So we've agreed that. But I must just share this with you about gifts. I asked my wife, my wife's birthday is at the beginning of December, and I said to her, what do you want for your birthday? Do you want me to surprise you? Do you want me to surprise you? Or is there something special you want or whatever? Now, we're not big spenders. And my wife said, do you know what I really want? I really, really want is an extractor hood that works, because the extractor hood in our kitchen doesn't work. So I thought, well, that's a bit strange. It's not really. But my wife is a great cook. She's a fantastic cook. She loves cooking. She spends lots of time in the kitchen. She really enjoys it. And this thing is, I noticed the other day that with the toaster was on, it was all terrible. Everything was all over the place. So I went online and I did my research, went on to Which and bought the thing for her. All right, it's about 300 quid. And I've got to fit it on the wall. But there we go. It's there. So she's got something that we're going to put. Now, here's the thing. Before we can put it up, we're going to have to, do a bit of painting in the kitchen and make it a bit nicer. And I'll do the filling, she'll do the painting. So it's a common endeavour. And I will get her something small for her birthday. But she's got what she wanted, which was something which we wouldn't normally justify because we're spending so much money there. But she wants it, right? Let's have a look at some of these comments here. Some people think it's a reflection of your masculinity and how good a boyfriend you are. Yeah, I don't want to end it. Yeah. Do you know what, Mabels? I won't worry about being on a group chat. Having principles and standing up for them, you've got to focus on what it is that really matters to you. If you're validated by what other people think, right, that's always going to be a difficult one. There's always someone who's got more than you. And I always say, if a partner is judging you by how much you're going to spend, well, it depends where you're spending it, right? So look at me. I don't look particularly amazing, do I? Don't look Mr. Bling. I haven't got the latest fashion, but I bet I've got more money than most people who I meet. And all I'm saying is that it gives me quiet confidence. And so what I'm saying is developing that quiet inner confidence about yourself You're not judged by how much money you've got, but you are judged by how much control you've got and the ability to make sure your values are aligned with your spending. Yeah, second-hand stuff is a good one. Yeah, I agree with that. There's loads of good second-hand stuff. Victorian oak table, 65 quid, lasted for over 100 years. It'll last for another 100 years, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Good, so let's I've got a great new tool for you. You can go to my website, jason-butler.com. Right on the homepage, you can download the Smart Christmas Gift Planner. And what that is, it's just a little simple summary. We just, something where you can write down who you've got to buy presents for, how much you're going to spend, and whether you've got it, is it wrapped, is it there? Just something that might just help you along the way think about this. And another thing you can do with friends and relatives is just agree that you're going to do sort of like a secret Santa. Just you're going to buy one present for a group of people, and that can also include your family. And just say, times are hard. If you're going to do it, this is the year to do it, right? Use this as an excuse. But here's another thing. What you could do, how about this, is you could agree not to have any real substantial presents, or certainly between the two of you. You can actually agree which two charities are you going to make some contributions to, and which two charities do you think you could do a bit of fundraising, or you could find some money or sell some stuff off at home. It's not always about you, is it? And one of the things about giving, there's something magical about when you give money and you don't get any accolades for it. When you give money away to good causes, things that matter to you, for people who are less fortunate than you, and there are plenty of people who are less fortunate than you can actually get a conversation about values with your partner by talking about which charities do we want to support. And the famous story is that in my Money Moments book was that when I was really on the floor in my finances, just as I was coming out of it, I started paying £100 a month into my CAF account. Now, £100 a month when you're skint is a lot of money. But there was something that happened. I don't know if it was the law of the universe or the abundance theory. And suddenly, basically, things started happening to me. And I didn't do it for that, but somehow something in the universe brought abundance to me because I wasn't thinking about myself, I was thinking about others. What's this about? What about taking on payment plans for family and friends where they don't have good credit? No, don't do that. No. Don't get involved in being a guarantor for people. Don't get involved. People have to learn. I don't know if you know the concept of a butterfly, right? A butterfly comes out of a cocoon. And it has to really push hard, and it has adversity. And what that's doing is it's getting all the wings moving and getting all the joints going. And if you just cut the cocoon and let the butterfly out, its wings wouldn't develop and it'll fall to the floor and die. So if you are constantly helping people out rather than them helping themselves out, or rather you helping them help themselves, they won't ever learn. And sometimes people have to go through a bit of pain and have to clear up messes in order to learn from them. If you keep helping them out all the time, then that's not going to be any good for them. So look, unless there's any questions here, I'm just going to sort of summarise a few things here, because obviously what I've really been talking about here is this whole thing of money and relationships. So you need to you need to first of all communicate. That's the key thing. You've got to communicate. And sometimes money issues and money conflicts is not really a money issue or a money conflict. It's actually a more deep-seated relationship issue or emotional connection issue, right? So maybe you need to talk to relate as opposed to anyone else. But if you do still feel that, hang on a minute, I could do with just trying to get the conversation moving, why don't you talk about what matters to you in terms of charities? Or why don't you talk about your upbringing and kind of what you learnt about money? And here's another thing, I mentioned this a few weeks ago. You could also say to your partner what you admire most about them. When was the last time you said to your partner what you admire about them, what you like about them, or what you appreciate about them, right? Because this creates a virtuous circle. I mean, I'm the world's worst. Don't get me wrong. I'm work in progress. At 51 years of age, I'm still learning how to do this. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm just saying try and appreciate. And as I always say to myself, I always appreciate the fact that my wife runs this home brilliantly. I mean, I can't even find my car keys, let alone order any food. It wouldn't happen. So that we have to always remember the simple little things. And if you want to sort of try and get people on the same page as you with money, you start with values. That's the key thing. I wrote a blog on my website, jason-butler.com, about that. It's called Start and End with Values. That's a good one for you to use as a catalyst. But the other thing is, why don't you download my money milestones, the 8 money milestones from our website. Just go to jason-butler.com/tools, or it's on the web homepage. And why don't you print it out and just share it with your partner? Say, God, I found this little framework from some mad lunatic bloke who lives in Suffolk about how we can use this to sort of make better decisions. So you're not making any inference, are you? You're not judging your partner. You're not saying they're useless. You're not saying you've got to have some constrictive budget. You're just saying, I've got a framework here. And one of the steps, the first step, is the smart spending system. And one of the components of the smart spending system is having fun once you've got and cleaned up your messes. And then if you feel that you still need some more help with that, I would strongly recommend that you use a money coach. Now, money coaches, trained money coaches, have gone through validation. There are 3 types of money coach in the UK. But a good friend of mine is a lady called Fanny Snaith. Check her out, fannysnaith.com. She has got, and you can get to her via my blog. She does couples counselling for money, but she does it in a way which is really easy. And there are loads of other coaches out there. There's Emma Maslin, there's Catherine Morgan. There's just loads and loads of good coaches out. If you're in doubt and you want to know about a coach, just email me via the website or contact me via Instagram and I'll let you know. So money coaches are just a low-cost way, and they will give you tools and frameworks to help the conversation. But Fanny, for instance, is an expert at dealing with couples who are going through a kind of a misalignment with the money. Obviously, she'll refer you to a therapist if what you really need is sort of relationship help. And a coach is different from a financial. That's a very good question. A money coach doesn't give regulated advice that you should invest your money here, or this is the pension for you, or this is the life assurance you should be buying. What they do is deal with the behavioural side of money. So what they try and do is help people unblock blockages. So people who are overspenders, or people who are hoarders, or people who've got a scarcity mindset, or people where they're judging themselves always by their bonus or how much they're earning. Anything where the behaviour is not helping them and they're being held back from feeling empowered about their money and feeling in control of it. So a money coach, a proper trained coach, helps you help yourself. Now, some financial advisors do coaching, but most financial advisors don't. And I know that from experience because I was one for 25 years and I never did coaching. I might have done bits of coaching, but I wasn't a trained coach in the same way as a trained coach is. Some money coaches do financial advice and financial planning as well, but most financial planners, good quality financial planners, the ones that are actually chartered financial planners or certified financial planners who are actually properly trained, they might do bits of coaching, as I say, but it's not the same. They're much more expensive than money coaches. Money coaches can help you help yourself kind of think differently about money and be more empowered. They cannot invest money for you. They cannot give you detailed recommendations on which insurance company to buy insurance from or where to invest your pension fund. They can't do that kind of work. So I suppose the best thing is to start off with a money coach and then decide if you need to go to a financial planner, because your affairs may be so simple that you don't need a professional advisor who's going to charge you, because they're normally 3 or 4 times more expensive. So start with a coach if you need some help, and then progress to a financial planner. Or you may have a financial planner, but the financial planner doesn't have the skills to help you unblock those blockages. So I'm a big fan of that. So look, I've got to go. It's been great speaking to you. I hope that's helped you. Just to highlight a few areas. I don't know all the answers, but the key thing as we go into Christmas, get the gift, the smart Christmas gift planner. Think about improving the communication. Think about what really matters to you, and try and have a dialogue with the person in your life, which is not going to make them feel defensive or make them feel stupid or make them feel like you're getting on at them. So look, appreciate you all being here. I'll be here again next Tuesday at 7:30. Check out tomorrow night. Tomorrow is the new edition of Real Money Stories podcast. If you don't see that, check that out. You'll like that. I'm sure you will. Last week's Mr. Money Jar. Mr. Money Jar was last week. Yeah, that was a good one. So I'll see you all again, same time next Tuesday. Thank you.